Springdale Park of Holyoke, Massachusetts, and we're going to point out the Olmsted design that was implemented. They actually came here in 1902 to look at the old design of what was here, which was a horse track. And they put it on one of the design, and they always did that. You get the first design. But remember, in 1902, this was still owned by John Pruitt. So that's incredible. The city of Holyoke ordered the design on something they didn't own yet. By 1905, they took it over, and from 1908 and 9 and 10, they worked on it, and it was finished, pieces at a time, and finally, about 1910, you could call it finished. But they had, in this area, 3 sections. One section was towards the left, and that was for adult, mostly men. It was a gymnastics section with a 200-yard running track in the middle of it, and German ethnic groups settled in Springdale the most, and French Canadian the second most. And so Germans loved calisthenics, and so they had a calisthenics section. Now in the middle part right here, from where we're standing to near where those trees are in the distance, was a large wading pool. It's the biggest wading pool I've ever seen. It was enormous. There might have been a tinier one to its side, but the big one, even towards the middle, was 2 feet deep, so it was close to being a pool. And that dates from the year 1911, and it stayed around even in 1980. It was around, but they finally took it out. So that's a long time for a wading pool, and most of them decay away. All right, and then the last thing was really cool. Towards the right-hand side, you had what was called a little folks section. It was specially made to be for mothers and little children only. So mothers can bring their little kids here, have their bigger kids go in the wading pool, and they can tend to their little 1, 2, 3-year-olds. And it was bordered by a large rose section. So along the road from basically that big bush and over to the edge of these big trees was an enormous rose trellis that had 800 rose plants planted here at the peak. And when some dies, they replace them. So it was 800 total at the peak. Most of them donated by George Sinclair for free, who was on the Parks Commission. Now this park playground was that. It was a playground inside the big park. And it was beautifully designed by these Olmsted brothers. And they kept developing along the way and suit their needs. And so one of their needs was, if you go along here, you see behind us an administration building and a workhouse. And you can see it's in the Art Deco style, which kind of means it must be from the 1920s. Well, close. It's from about 1933. It was made as a WPA project. Holyoke had about 100 WPA projects, and this is one of these projects, and it still exists, of course, 90 years later. Now, we're going to go around. All parks and everything evolves with the times. We're in the middle of, I think, it's a spray park. And then right next to us is a playground set for children. It's right close to where the old children's section would have been. But they have a couple of slides, a couple of climbing things, and a big swing set, and other apparatus. And so this neighborhood had its own park and playground like most neighborhoods of Holyoke did, and Nora's was designed by the Olmsted brothers. Some of the features are still here. One of the features you can still see are the trees that were planted here. They were planted here in the year 1911, and these are still the original trees. So you're looking at trees that are now 112 years old, and they kind of look that way. They're still in the same place, and they were all designed to be different species, and so the Olmsted brothers mapped them out to be exactly that, set species and set points. They didn't add the rose garden, but they told the designers to put flowers along the entire roadway to make it really beautiful, and they almost did that, but they did it mostly with roses, and so that's an incredible thing. So